who I am. This is what I do. This is who I am. I'm the living proof. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is who I am. Who the fuck are you?
Hey guys, what's up? Episode 3 already?
I mean, how did you just forget that?
Episode 3, baby. I have to remember whenever I make motions that people are also listening online. So in case you guys are not watching and you're listening, you can get us on iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. You can check us out on Facebook on Soul Joel TV. And you can also check out the link on Deanna Kozak or Joel's sister, or Joel Richardson's personal page. We posted up there too. So wherever you get your podcast, download it, listen, give it a review. I am Deanna Kozak. A lot of people know me as Joel's sister. I've been a realtor and self-employed for 11 years. This is my brother and my co-host, Joel Richardson. And he has been also an entrepreneur for 11 years, owner of Soul Joel Productions and Soul Joel's Comedy Club and Lounge. And we had this little idea to come up with a podcast, both being, self-employed for many years and being successful with it. We wanted to give a couple tips, tricks, and right now people are surviving and want to thrive. So surviving and thriving tips for entrepreneurs. And today we are going to talk about the hustle, because the hustle is very pertinent to our guest who we're going to bring out. Yeah. Our first non-family member guest. So he feel very honored.
It's funny too, because last week, Joey St. John, the producer, the man behind the scenes, and I had ordered T-shirts for Soul Joel's Comedy Club, and they came in. And the minute they came in, we started selling T-shirts and peddling them. So it was just the opportunity, right time, and the timing was right. So instead of being a comedy producer and a talent manager, I became a T-shirt salesman. But we're doing whatever we can to survive and make sure that we stay open whenever this is all over.
Well, I think that's the hustle right now is, and I know a lot of people are really sensitive to that. I've seen some stuff on social media where people are like, it's okay if you don't come out of this speaking Mandarin. It's okay if you don't, crochet 5 blankets or get your house clean or do this or do that. And I get that. I get it that there's a lot of people out there that have anxiety. They don't know how to pivot, but that is the difference between those people that truly know the hustle and people that just aren't cut out for it. And that's why there's some people that are really, really successful and some people that are just happy punching the clock 9 to 5. If everybody had that in them, then the world would be a very different place. So I think we are kind of appealing to those people that want to put in the work. And that's what the difference is between the real hustle and the fake hustle is you have to be honest with yourself. Like, how much effort are you actually putting in? Are you throwing up a social media post here and there? Are you just like talking to one person every once in a while about what you want to do? You have to actually do actionable items, right?
Yeah, you have to have a plan and you have to stay with it and be consistent and make sure you're not just happy with whatever likes or comments you're getting on one social media post, because it's about the marathon. It's not about the sprint.
Yep. Yeah. So I think putting that consistent effort, that's that real hustle that people need to get with. If they want to be successful in being self-employed, you can't get discouraged, and you just got to keep grinding every day, whether it's during isolation, quarantine, or whether it's everyday life. You got to get up, wake up, rise and shine, mother cluckers.
Well, our guest that I'm going to bring out is no stranger to the hustle, has been a performer and for his entire life. And then 2 years ago, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, he had made a character based off his mom called Aunt Mary Pat. And the Eagles won the Super Bowl. It went viral, and I got introduced to him through Gino Vento, our good mutual friend of Gino's Steaks, and he came on our podcast, The Comedy Point, and then we met Aunt Mary Pat, and now is one of our proud to be one of our clients at Soul Joel Productions. Please welcome our guest, Troy Hendrickson.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, I am so proud of you. People know you from Aunt Mary Pat and being a performer, but then last Sunday, you've been doing a drag brunch each and every week, and you're no stranger to staying relevant. But then you were the Tiger King, and I've never seen this on your personal page, not a business page. 34,500 views on that video.
Yeah, it's nuts. We actually did. So I watched that Tiger King documentary on Netflix, which everyone's home right now, so pretty much everyone's watching it.
Right.
It blew up, and I was like, it's so full of like these insane characters. I love to do it. So we did the Carol Baskin character first, and that honestly got, I think right now it's at 375,000 views.
Oh my God.
Which it's almost as big as the first Aunt Mary Pat video that got this whole thing started. And then we did the Tiger King. I did a live interview as the Tiger King on here. And it's great because I got my start doing like internet videos and characters and making fun of different stereotypes and things like that. And then because I've been touring for the past 2 years, that kind of got, secondary because we've been doing all these live shows, which is great. But now that we can't, like, I got back into that and doing character impersonations and videos, and the reception has been, phenomenal, which is, it's really like, that's where you got your start. So it's kind of coming full circle again, doing that.
Well, I even saw that you did a car salesman video based in South Jersey in Cherry Hill.
Yes. This is an idea I had for a long time. I'll probably do it again. But every time you listen to the radio or like TV news ads, there's always those used car lot in like Cherry Hill, New Jersey. There's like 15,000 of them, and they're always on. And the thing that strikes me,
70.
Yes, you know what? I never realized this because the accent is so thick. And I was like, why wouldn't they get like a voiceover actor to fit this? But I think that's where the charm is. Like that thick accent, it's home. People look forward to that.
Well, people don't realize that you actually went to school for acting in Chicago, and that's where Second City and a lot of the actors that are on Saturday Night Live, and that's where they kind of that's how they came about. But you've had a huge acting background, and people don't know that.
Yeah, so I actually went to a performing arts middle school and high school. Did acting from 6th grade to 12th grade. Did like theater, and then I met a creative writing teacher named Mr. Massiello who really pushed me to start, writing movie scripts and little ideas that I had because, the creative writing format, I always like wrote it in like almost like a script. Like it was very, rather than all like the details of like short stories. So he got me in touch with another teacher who had a cinema studies class, and they only accepted 14 kids into this class each year. And kind of charmed and schmoozed my way into the class. And that's where I fell in love with, and that's where I fell in love with doing like characters and doing short videos and all these things. So I would just like, I would grab like my friend, I'd be like, hey, just in here and just like, don't do anything. And then I would come do a little skit and then, move on. But I was really fortunate to have those like tools at my disposal because a lot of people who come up don't have access to that. But because I went to a performing arts school, I did. And then going to college, I got more into film and television, acting, and then live performing too.
Well, it seems like your whole family is very supportive. I mean, knowing your mom, and I met a couple of your aunts, and your brother, who people don't know, is also a performer. He's a musician. Yeah. So you've kind of had a very supportive family, and it seems like a family of a history of performing.
Yeah, so like my mom and dad have been great. They're very like, I mean, you've met my mom. They're characters to a T. Like not, that's no other way to describe it. They're not performers, but they are characters. Like they are so funny and so energetic, and they've done karaoke all my life, and all these kind of like little things that inspired me and my brother to really put ourselves out there. He's a great musician. I got into acting and characterization and performing. But it's thanks to them with their encouragement and just being, very supportive that we were able to do what we did.
So did you originally start out with the vision that this was it being self-employed and doing all your characters? Was that like your first real job, or did you do something prior when you got out of school?
The self-employed part came a lot later, and that kind of happened, by, I always tell Joel my happy accident So I worked since I was in high school. I worked at Chuck E. Cheese. I worked at Goodwill. I worked at Claire's in the mall. I worked at Discover. I worked at the state of Delaware. I've always had jobs that I was there for like a year or 2 years, and I was just never happy. Like
Just to
I would start
supplement
off,
what you wanted to really do.
yeah, and like I try to get jobs that had schedules where I could still perform at night and kind of make time for videos. But it was tough for a while. Like there was a point where I was working 3 jobs and going to school, and I had no time for like my art. And like I don't know how else to describe it other than people who are also performers, but I felt like I was dying. Like I felt like a flower with no sun or no water. Like I was just wilting over. It's true. Like it's so true. Like when you aren't able to do what you really want to do, and like you said beautifully earlier, some people enjoy that stability and enjoy having a 9-to-5 job, and great for them. But I'm just not one of those people. And it wasn't until 2018 where I'm a drag queen as well. So like my drag career started really picking up, and then Aunt Mary Pat took off. And I think about 3 or 4 months after that, I just told my partner, I was like, hey, this is bringing in enough income where I can survive. If I don't take this chance now, I'll probably never have this opportunity again. So I left my job. I started my business, got my business license, and really I like learned as I went because I had no experience in that before.
So you had no guidance. Like no, your parents were never self-employed. Nobody gave you like that business, like how to navigate it.
I mean, I took economics in high school.
Right,
No, my dad.
How to do your books for dummies. How to
Yeah, like I mean, like my mom, she's worked odd jobs all of her life, and now she's a successful manager for an environmentals company. And then my dad was always in the labor union, so he always had these jobs. So like they really had no guidance to really offer me. And none of my family members owned a business, so I had no one to really ask for help. So it was learn as I go. I downloaded QuickBooks. I did all my own bookkeeping. I did all my own. Until I met Joel, I did all my own management and bookings and all that kind of stuff. So it really was like a learn as you go, because I was internet savvy, but I didn't know the algorithm or the statistics or how you got to view who's watching your videos or from where. So that was all like self-taught.
Yeah, well, you've mastered that. Because a couple times I've asked you if you've done a few things on purpose, and you're like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, no, I thought it was on accident, but now it might have happened originally on accident, but now you study it so much where you know what to do and how to make it successful.
Yeah, and I got to thank, honestly, local drag queens in Philly who have like got that algorithm down packed, because they're all trying to get on RuPaul's Drag Race on TV, so they have to know who's watching and where. And I was like, hey, can you share some of that experience,
some of that knowledge?
Yeah. And then thankfully, like Facebook Creator Studio breaks it down for you, and it really was eye-opening. And then I could plan when to strategically make some decisions that would help get it a bigger viewership.
I always tell people that I've enjoyed getting to know Troy, because I'm always like looking back and just envious of how you keep it all together, from Miss Troy to Aunt Mary Pat and yourself. And then I follow you on Facebook. I'm like, oh, he doesn't. Because you did that you did that joke where you were talking about getting out of you're a huge Starbucks fan, and you need, no matter what state we're in, you always get Starbucks, no matter where it is. Yes. You get Starbucks, and you said you got out of the car and your hat blew away, and you went, "Oh my God, my wig!" And there was a bunch of construction guys, and they turned around like, "What?" It was his hat, and he goes, "Oh my
God." So yes, I do not function without Starbucks coffee. So that was right before I got my first sip, and I'm like, my wig! And then like, it's 10:30 in the morning. Jesus Christ, like what is going on right now? But yeah, like fun fact about me, I always, like when I book hotels, I always try to get them in like close proximity to a Starbucks, which is great because your club, the hotel that's in town, is like really on the same block.
That's hilarious. Yeah, and I always tell people, man, you are one of the easiest people to deal with. Even though you're a drag queen, you would think you would be a diva, but as long as there's a Starbucks, we're good to go.
That's all I need. Starbucks and Cabernet. Like I'm a happy boy. Doesn't take much to make me happy.
Well, we thought you were actually our first non-family member guest. So our first episode was Joel and I. Our second one was our mom, and then this is you. And it's really Joel and I are both just so impressed. Like, I know I've seen you perform a couple times at his club, and I said to Joel, I was like, "Did he go to school for acting? Like, just the performances that you put on and the amount of effort that you put into everything. Like, just besides the sheer entertainment aspect, why people love you, just." Put all that aside, like you really put on a show, like the songs and everything. Like it's super impressive. So we knew you had to be our first non-family member guest. And with all that effort, like you had to, at this point, like you said, you've only been self-employed for a couple of years, but if you had to kind of look back on things, what would you say biggest success, biggest failure, if you had to pick like two pivotal points?
I'll start with the failure. I think the biggest failure that I had was undervaluing myself, especially when I first got started. I probably lost out on a ton of money because I didn't know what to charge. I didn't know how to negotiate ticket deals. I didn't know how to really value what I had to offer, and that really. I looking back now, it's cringeworthy, and I try not to think about it because it just gets me upset.
You can't live in the past,
exactly. So it wasn't really until I met Joel that he was like, "I'll pay you what you're worth," and then he handed me my first check when I did the first show with him, and I was like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah, look at these people. Like you earned that money," and I was like, "Oh, I've been making some wrong decisions."
Meanwhile, I was only treating you the way I thought you meant to treat it. I didn't know that was going on through your head. So kudos to you because you're a good actor.
Wow, that's why they pay me the big bucks now. No, it's like, it really was a learning experience. Getting that the financial aspect sorted out. Because when I get paid what I'm supposed to get paid, then I can pay other people with their, what they deserve to be paid. And it's kind of like that, lateral shift there. And Joel really taught me that. I think the biggest success, was really taking my video, like my followers. I think the first year we had about 30,000, and now we're just about to cross 100,000 on Facebook. So like the growth there, I feel like is the biggest success. And in turn, you see that when we do live shows, like, at Joel's club, we had 4 shows in a week that were all sold out. 3 shows in one night, all sold out.
Can I get tickets?
Yeah.
Can I get tickets? I'm like, come to the next show.
Right. And it's crazy. And, I think the best success, that I had was like doing a show at the Queen, because it was kind of a surreal moment. It's a historic theater in Wilmington. I've seen a lot of like live shows there, like a lot of bands that I really, admire, and then to be on that same stage looking out at a crowded room was just like, it took my breath away. And like it wasn't until the show was over and the whole room cleared out that I like got emotional, because I was like, this is insane. Like I can't believe this is my life. But at the same time, that's always been my dream. So it's like fulfillment right there.
Yeah, well, the two things I always tell people, it's very impressive to not only see some of your super fans that they kind of follow you like the Grateful Dead. They'll go to every venue and see. But then there's times where, like, whether it's me or whether it's you on stage, asking people if you've been to a show or haven't been to a show. The last 4 shows at the club, it was almost like 90% of the people had never been to one of your shows. So it's funny to watch on Facebook. All of a sudden, someone's sharing a video from like 2018 or a year ago. It's because they're going back and archiving all those shows, and they just stumble upon a video you've done, years ago.
Yeah, and that really is telling, because you get people that shares some of the first videos that we've done, and I'm like, that, and they're like, oh my God, and I get messages. People say, I just found out about you, like blah 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 blah, and it really is cool, and that kind of reaffirms to me that there's still value in this, and there's still growth in this, which is really, what else could you ask for at this point,
Yeah, well, it's touching to see the people down in, when we did our Florida tour. You remind them of home, which is why they love to come out. But the stories about how, you got this lady through a divorce, or this lady when she lost her husband, it's like you bring people out from a dark moment. And that's what, even whether they're seeing you live or watching your video, you're therapeutic for people. And Mary Pat is.
Yeah, well, not me. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, it is telling because people like it for different reasons. For some people, you know, when we went to shows in Florida and California and New York, they're like, you remind me of home. And that's awesome. And then there's people like, I didn't laugh for a year because I lost my son to addiction. And you were the first thing that got me out of the house. Or ladies, you know, I had a lady when I first got started who had terminal cancer, and she just sat in the hospital watching videos because it kept her in a good mood. And like when people tell you that stuff, it's like, it's hard to process because I don't really know how to respond to that other than say thank you. Like I do it because it makes me happy, and the fact that it's being received that way, there's nothing. I mean, there's really nothing more you could ask for.
Do you think that's part of what makes you happy? Like not just the performing part and seeing a full audience, but the fact that you fulfill other people too. Like, do you think that's part of what makes you happy about it? Like subconsciously, like if you're fulfilling others with your work, that in turn makes you happy.
Yeah, because I've always been like an empathetic person. So I've always like tried to, you know, I've always been kind of well grounded, and you know, I've been able to deal with my own stuff pretty well. So I've always tried to take on other people's problems and try to like in turn help the best way I can and try to fix it. It's just who I am. It's who my mom is. It's how we've always been. And part of that I think is just seeing people happy. Like I don't even have to perform, just to see them after a show and they talk to me and say, hey, you made my night, or like, can I just have a hug, or can I just have a picture? And like that, like, you want a picture with me? Sure. Like I would love that. And that I think that's part of, like, I would say that's 60%, a good deal of what in turn like fulfills me.
Well, I can attest to the fact that you're there literally until Joey and I are ready to kick you out. Like you're there. You're there, but you're there until every fan is, and the fans just enjoy talking to you, and you want to make sure that for the most part, unless it's a special show, like the meet and greet is included, and you're there to take a picture or a video, whatever, with every fan. And I think the people really get behind you and support you because of that.
Yeah, that was like my goal when I first started, because I wanted to, I kind of, I mean, it's not always possible, but I looked at it this way. It's like, what is the experience that I would like to have if I was in the audience? You want to have a good show. You want to have an interactive, you know, performer, and you want to meet them. And like, it's not always possible, but at this point in time, I'm not Ariana Grande with, you know, 60,000 people after a show. But, you know, we have 100, 200 people. I'll wait until everyone, you know, has their moment and says what they need to say, or give me a hug or take a picture. And I think when I first started, that like was super helpful in growing my audience, because a lot of people were sharing my picture and they're like, who the fuck is that? Am I allowed to say that?
No, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Joey will bleep it out.
Okay, cool. So like, you know, they're like, who's that? And then they research me, and then like you see through shares, it grows and grows and grows. And even on my personal page, I get people who I probably have like 400 unread Facebook messages on my personal page of people who found me, you know, through the internet or whatever. Even I was on CBS 3. They did a segment on me the other night.
I watched it.
Yeah. It turned out super well. I was
that
very
song
happy.
is in my head every day. I sing it in the kitchen. I'm like, why am I still singing this COVID song?
I've gotten so many messages of people like having their kids sing it and send it to me. But like doing those like news pieces, then people find out like I'm actually a real person behind the character, and then they you know, get interested in that aspect of my life too, which in turn helps the other things that I like to do, because people find out I do other things and they kind of hop on board with that as well. It's pretty cool.
Well, the thing that I love about you as a performer, and people don't understand what it takes to not only to put yourself in the Aunt Mary Pat character, but the accent they can hear right now. It's not real. Like, it's not how you talk normally. But yeah, when you start getting heckled, to not only respond to those audience members, but you do it in the character of Aunt Mary Pat. And like because you did it because you're married, your partner has a name, and I don't know if you want to say the name, but like but you're in character, your husband's name is Larry. And someone yelled out during the last one of the shows is the cream of some young guy, and you're like, oh, that was Larry back in the 80s. I'm like, how did he just do that? I'm like, he just did it in character and it correctly.
Yeah, I actually find it easier to be in a character and like, because like when I'm in. Like there's
Right.
really like there's no breaking it for me, and I've always kind of performed that way. Like I don't know if it may have been, you know, going to acting school in middle school and high school. Maybe they trained that into my brain. I don't know, but I've always kind of been like, when I'm in character, I'm in character, and I don't break it, and I'll stay in that. And like I only ever perform as a character if I can think of a way that person would respond to anything. You know what I mean? That's just kind of how I act, and I like that a little bit more because it pushes me to really think creatively and like what the bigger picture is for that character. So that I like, and I like you said, I don't know, I don't know where it comes from, to be honest, because like when I respond to things in character, especially like off the cuff, because obviously I have a set and I perform it, I have that memorized. But when people say things and I respond to them, it just comes out. Like it's not like, and you've been there where it's just like, it's quick. It just flows out of my mouth, and I don't even know. Like I'm like, oh shit, you know.
Well, but
that's
that's
part of what people are paying for. Like how you said in the beginning that you devalue yourself. Like that's all the practice that you put into it, the years of schooling, the behind the scenes stuff that you do, the songs that you write. Like they're not just paying you to perform a hour and a half, 2 hour show, whatever the case may be. Like they're also paying you for the hours and hours that it took to get to that point.
Yeah, and I kind of understood that a little bit more when this whole thing happened, and I started putting videos up, because obviously, you know, there's no shows happening. That's my primary source of income. So like I had to like try to think of a way to keep myself afloat, and I started putting up videos and lives, and you know, putting up my Venmo link and said, if you appreciate, you know, the video, feel free to send a tip if you can. And like the first night, we got a decent amount of people that sent tips, and it was like, and they put little memos in there like, thank you for years of entertainment, or thank you for this and thank you for that. And like you said, that it didn't really hit me until, you know, I met Joel, and like all these things that are happening. Like it's not just you perform on a stage for an hour. It's also you put together an entire set. You created music. You took time to respond to messages. You put up video content that you usually don't get any money for. So I mean, it does kind of like resonate a lot more now with me that's the case.
And with the creativity that you were always putting together a new tour, and it's probably because you get yourself bored of your own act, like you said, memorizing it. So every 3 months, you're literally having a new tour, new material, new songs that people don't realize that's you singing. So you've really put together.
And how much effort that is. I mean, how often do you see comics, performers, all that kind of stuff, like put together multiple new acts? Like there's some comedians I know who have had the same act for 5 years.
Yeah, or more.
Yeah. I go to see them and I'm like, I'm pretty, like I've seen a lot of comedy just because of Joel over the years.
Right.
But I'm like, that's your same act. Like you couldn't come up with anything new in 5 years, whereas you're doing multiple acts every year.
Yeah. So like, I mean, we have like, I mean, I tried to like break it down in quarters, because there's certain things, because it's such a regional character that people look first to. Like obviously the holidays are a huge deal. With me, the shore time is a huge deal. So we always have to touch on those things. And then, you know, just keeping the act fresh and new for people, because like Joel said, there's people that come back, and some people memorize my show because they come so often that they'll be like wording my jokes with me. Like I can see them in the front rows, and they're like, watch this, and he says this, and I'm like, oh my God. Like that's either a good thing or a bad thing, but like I think for the most part, people look forward to certain jokes, so we keep some in and we rework them so it's still new, but it's familiar. And then like honestly, like 50% of my show, it's taken out and reworked every 4 months or so. And that's just because I get bored. I'm like, I don't want to hear me saying the same things. And then like I think of my poor partner Danny, who sells merchandise for me, comes to every show, and he's like, oh my God, it's like stuck in the Twilight Zone with the same clip, you know, playing in my head over and over again. But there he is right there behind me.
Hey Danny.
Said I. So yeah, it's just like you know, I try to keep it fresh, I try to keep it new, but also familiar. And also like I think of it this way, you know, you're a musician on a tour, there's certain greatest hits that people come to hear, but they also want to hear something fresh and new too. I think comedy is a lot harder. To write successful jokes is really tough. But you kind of have to, for your own sanity, I think, keep it new and keep it fresh, just because it's, you can't just repeat yourself. I think you'll go crazy.
When you have a lot of different characters that you can pull from, like, your daughter and Larry and Dawn, and not that I watch all your videos, but, all these different people, these different characters that you can use and play off of.
Yeah, it's like this whole universe that just kind of happened by accident, because I'm like, who would you talk about? And like, I usually with my videos, they're all improv, right? So I'll think of like, what is the main focus of this? Who's involved? And then just go. And then just see what comes out. And for the most part, I don't ever re-record. Like, it's like whatever comes out, it comes out. And usually like there's stuff that I've said that I'm like, that was pretty funny. And there's also like,
well, it's like Deanna just said, I've had a lot of friends of mine that are huge fans of yours, and I find out afterwards how they've been following you for a few years, that they love your storylines of all the characters Deanna just mentioned, and how you always integrate them and what's going on. Like you said, like Memorial Day, you're like, oh, I hate my neighbor and her trash can. Look at it's on my arm. But Memorial Day is coming up, and she's and she's got a shore house. So will I be laughing at her all the way down the Atlantic City Expressway? Yes, I will. Yes, I will. So, but you always incorporate whatever's relevant to your characters, and you spin that in to make it all blend in together, which is it's impressive.
And I don't want to throw my mom under the bus,
but
a lot of it's inspired from like. So me and my mom talk every day, and I know you're close with your dad, and I'm super close with my mom, and we talk every single day.
Oh, he talks to his mother every day.
Yep. Yeah.
Every day. We come from an Italian family. He is just up on the pedestal.
Yep.
She calls me, and then she'll start telling me a story, because we're very close. She tells me everything, and she tells me a story, and then like halfway through, she's like, "Oh shit, you're gonna turn this in one of your goddamn videos, aren't you?" And I was like, "I'm not writing it down as we speak."
Yeah. Well, yesterday she posted, it was yesterday, the day before, she goes, "Whenever this is all over, this is going to be me when the bars open up." And it was a picture of Forrest Gump running as fast. And you're just like, what? Like,
that woman, like, she is something else, but I take notes for sure. I'm like a studier of human behavior. And then I always try to see how I can turn it into a funny, something funny. But yeah.
Well, to kind of wrap this up, where do you see Troy Hendrickson in 3 years or 5 years? What's down the road?
Well, hopefully not dead. With all this crazy shit going on.
Oh, we didn't think that was going to be an answer.
Yeah, mic drop. Good night.
Yeah, not one of the boxes. Dead was not an option.
But no, seriously, like I really want to grow my brand. Like there's so many things that I want to do and want to try in my life. And if I succeed, if I fail, it doesn't matter. But I want to have more music, because that really makes me happy. I want to do voiceover work, because that's always been something that I've always wanted to be like a cartoon character. Want to keep writing. I want to have my own show, like a scripted show. I would love to get into like different acting, maybe as myself. I would love to do, tons of things, like have more characters that people, find funny, and do more impersonations, and, maybe be on SNL. Like that would be like something that, that I would love to do. And there's so many things that I want to do, but I'm saying at this point in my life, I am humble, grateful, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. So even if I'm doing the same thing I'm doing now in 3 years, I'll still be just as happy as I am right now. But would I love to do other things and do bigger things? Of course. But I think I'm definitely, happy where I am. But, hopefully we'll keep growing, and there'll be other new exciting things to try and do.
Oh, well, yeah, definitely. With the hard work that you put in, I can't imagine that you're not going to grow exponentially over the years. And also, we like to kind of pay it forward here, and you have been successful. You've done this. You've figured it out. If you had to say to younger Troy or somebody starting out, what would be like your top 5 tips for when you became self-employed? What would you tell them?
Get the money first. don't sign anything until you have someone else look it over. Get everything in email, everything. Never talk on the phone until you have it in writing. Work hard and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be tired. Don't be afraid to put hours in, because there really no one's going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. Sometimes people get lucky and things happen and you propel into, certain things. But a lot of the time there's years and years and years of hard work before a break ever happens. And then save your money, because you never know when the whole world will shut down to COVID-19 and you'll be having to do, things online for tips. So save your money.
Well, Troy, we appreciate having on. Everybody go
Thank
check
you.
out, the real AuntMaryPat.com and Aunt Mary Pat on all social media pages. And from the bottom of our heart, Troy, we appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you guys having me. It was great talking to you. You have a great show, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to Entrepreneurs Fuck. To stay up to date on future shows, follow Soul Joel TV on Facebook and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. See you next time, and always remember, respect the hustle.